Westerns, so I was very excited to find out your second movie as a director was a Western. What kind of got you down that route? And an original Western too. I have to say that, I mean, doing an original Western is also very original because, there's so many books and things like that to adapt.
True.
Um, well, I didn't start out writing a Western. I was writing a story about Vivienne, the character that Vicky plays, a woman who's kind of free thinking, independent, kind of stubborn. And I thought it'd be interesting to place a woman like that on the Western frontier in the 19th century because it would be harder for her. She'd have more obstacles. It's a society dominated by men, kind of a lawless society, men who are corrupt and prone to violence. I thought that would just make it that much tougher for her to be herself.
Mhm. Well, it's definitely a genre which is very male dominated. We don't get to see a lot of. I mean, we've seen a few over the years, which are great. Um, Vicky, what got you interested in doing this role? Did you just get a script and just say, hey, this is a really good role. I should do this one.
I usually don't only just pick the role. It's more like the whole thing. And in this case, I was really moved by Viggo's attempt to try and describe maybe the reason why our society today is also flawed and difficult and full of obstacles and full of war, and that certain topics we're dealing today go back to that time and that we never really solved them, that we never really talked about them. Also, the relation between man and woman has never really didn't have time to heal, And to me, his film is an attempt of maybe healing some of those wounds and some of those primitive human, what would you call it, flaws. I don't know. Why do humans do that? Why do we steal land from other people? Why do we fight over land? Why do we fight one another? Why do men want to, dominate other men, dominate women? That's really not only the role, it was really just the meaning behind the whole film that moved me and why I was interested.
Yeah, the love story definitely gives it a very different feel and different because it's really very strange how we don't really see that much of that in these movies. It's always about a land or some kind of dispute about something. Diego, can you talk about that? Like why you want to have that as be kind of the crux of a movie in some ways?
Well, I wanted to, as Vicky was saying, I wanted to explore a relationship of more or less equals, although Olsen is very much a man of his time and Vicky is a woman of her time. They're unusual, and that's maybe why they're drawn to each other, in that they are free in their thinking and they're curious about the world and about other people, and they're curious about each other. There's an attraction, that starts their relationship, but then they are interested in what the other person thinks and feels. And that seems normal. It should be. I mean, any relationship that works at all, you have to have some interest, some curiosity about the other person. But a lot of times that fades, or maybe it never was there from one side. Maybe it was just sex, or something. And then gradually one person realizes that the other person is not that interested in what you think or in adapting to you, evolving with you. And in this case, they both make mistakes, especially him, I think. They both have their character. They're both stubborn in their way, loners. But their relationship works because there's a certain trust, certain curiosity about the other person. And I wanted to explore that with this backdrop of a classic Western, where all the details were paid attention to. We were careful about that, and the language and horseback riding, all the details, the clothes, everything. So it was fun to put that together.
Vicky, have you ever done a Western before? Is this your first Western?
Yeah, that's my first Western.
Yeah. So how do you prepare for it? I mean, do you already have horse riding skills and things like that from other roles and did you bring to this?
Yeah, I mean, like always, I was underestimated as a woman. So I was much better horse rider than they thought. But still I had to adapt to the Western horse ride style and also get to know my horse. And we all had a particular horse that was our horse. And so there was a lot of preparation actually going into these, even if it's a very short scene, maybe, you know, you might see someone on the horse just like for 2 minutes on one scene. But for this to be perfect and run perfectly and smoothly, there was a lot of preparation going into that. So most of my preparation, I think, had to do with horses. And also, of course, I needed to adapt to the climate and being outside all the time and in the dust and in the open air. And yeah.
It was good that she knew how to ride before, but also that you wanted to ride and you wanted to explore that, because what I don't like in Westerns, I like Westerns, I grew up with them, is there, even in good Westerns, sometimes you'll see an actor, even the way they walk up to the horse, you can tell they're not comfortable around horses. And the way they get on or get off, not just the way they ride, they're not really familiar with them. They're nervous in a way that they shouldn't be, because back then that was the mode of transportation. You either rode a horse or a horse was pulling your wagon, you know, if you were going any distance. And it's weird if someone is not comfortable around horses at that time. You know, that was how you got around. And Vicky looked totally at home when you see there's a scene where she goes to work, you know, and it's no nonsense the way she rides that horse down the main street and gets off, and she looks completely like she grew up with horses, and that's the way it should be.
I also love the fact that you really kind of dealt with the immigrant experience in America. People kind of forget. I mean, Westerns are thought of as a very American, and Italian also, but a very American movie genre. But I mean, sometimes a lot of these movies just completely forget that like every American is an immigrant in some ways, except for the people who
Yeah,
lived here
I
before
mean,
us.
that was something we wanted to explore, and it was important to us, not just the clothes and the language and the buildings and everything else, but we wanted to be historically accurate about that, about the diversity of society back then. Then, as now, the United States was a melting pot. And unless you were an indigenous person, a Native American, you came from lots of different places. So to have the two main characters be people that don't have English as their first language is unusual, unfortunately. I mean, even in good Westerns, they're usually Anglo-Saxon, US-born English speakers, you know? And so that's different. And you have some other characters in our story. You hear different accents, different languages, different dialects, you know? And that was important to show that diversity. It's only someone who's willfully blind who thinks that back then or now the U.S. is or should be only for Americans. What does that mean? I mean, it's code for white Christians, basically, and nothing wrong with white Christians, you know, that's how I was raised. But there's a lot more to the country than that, and there always was.